Spotlight today, we're very happy to be featuring the Hellenic American Leadership Council that has been founded 3 years ago for the purpose of utilizing the greater social capital of the Greek community combined with modern technology. Joining us today is Halc Senior Fellow Nikolas Katsimpras and Halc Council Member and Attorney Taso Pardalis. Gentlemen, welcome to New Greek Television and thank you for being here on In the Spotlight with us.
Thank you for having us.
You have a wonderful organization. I mean, you've done a lot within 3 years. You're very aggressive. Your pillars start with, you have a political aspect to your organization, cultural and educational, and an academic component. I'm very happy because the new generation is taking over and the older generation is passing down the torch to keep Hellenism alive here in the United States and around the world for the Greeks abroad.
Yes, this is actually the main premise of our organization, being able to adapt to the challenges of our community in the 21st century and focus on a demographic that has been emerging, but at the same time not as involved as it should be or as it could be. And people like Taso are, pivotal in this effort.
Taso, tell us a little bit about the initiative. How did it begin, and who is part of it?
Well, the initiative began a few years ago in Chicago. Our founder is Nikolas, who had the vision to get the organization going. It's headed out of and run out of Chicago by Andy Zemenidis, who, for those of you who know, Andy has been involved in politics here in the United States for, I think, his whole life. I mean, I'm sure he wasn't when he was a baby, but we think he was.
Yeah.
This organization in particular has been very active on social media and on the internet, and it's been able to energize a portion of the community that's never been reached through traditional through traditional methods. Halc now has members in all 50 states. I think that the numbers are 75,000 and growing every month. Last year we reached and affected every member of Congress and the Senate down in Washington. These are just some of the general statistics.
A lot of new generation Greek Americans are getting involved. Second, third, fifth. They don't speak Greek, but that doesn't mean they're not Greek.
They want a connection, and they want a connection, and we provide that for them. I think, Nico, we passed 2 bills in Congress last year. Yeah.
Well, let's go into the political aspect of your organization. Nikos happens to be also a lecturer at Columbia University for conflict resolution. Please let us know a little bit about what's going on in the past couple of months and what has Halc done for these issues.
First of all, the thing that's flaming right now is the Turkish violations.
The airspace violations with Syria and Russia, correct.
So this is a perfect opportunity for Greece to sort of capitalize on an unfortunate event and really make the point of how Turkey has been doing exactly the same thing for decades. This is not just something that's new. It's something that has been taking place since the 80s, since the 70s. It's really the everyday life of the Greek Air Force.
And the media fails. I mean, the media abroad has failed to make it a point to give all this information about all the violations that Turkey has also made.
And I grew up in an airbase. My father was an Air Force pilot, a Greek Air Force pilot. I grew up remembering what toll it takes on the Greek families, on the Greek Air Force, both financially, but also in terms of life. So many people have actually died trying to keep up with these challenges that Turkey has been imposing over the Aegean. And especially now in the past 4 years, because of the crisis, during the crisis, Erdogan has been picking up his pace when it comes to violations. Actually,
how many times this year has Turkey invaded Greek airspace?
It's over 2,000 times, depending on the statistics and depending on the type of the violations, because there are different types of legal violations. But since 2012, the number overall is 7,000. So it's not just this year. We need to understand that there's a very steady trajectory upwards when it comes to the aggressiveness. And it's not just the violations of the airspace. Another really interesting number is the 800-something armed airplanes, Turkish airplanes, that have crossed over the Greek airspace. So imagine what the reaction of the US or of Turkey, for that matter, would be if an armed airplane crossed over its airspace, not just any airplane, an armed airplane, which brings the challenge and the threat to a whole different level.
Tell us a little bit about what are some of the things you've done to lobby all of these issues to Washington?
So let's start with this one specifically, since this is going on right now, and I would like to just get the word out there. We have been trying to educate the public about this. So the information and the briefing papers that we put out there the past week have reached around like 30,000 people of our community. And we started a petition that goes directly to the State Department and the Secretary of State with information about Turkey's violations of the Aegean. And within like half a day, we have over 1,000 people who have sent their letters. And this is part of something that I'm very proud of. We have invested a lot of capital on developing a very solid social media platform. And we make it very easy for our members not just to participate, but participate in a way that is effective, meaning that your email will not be lost in a vacuum. Your email, because of our highly sophisticated online platform, will go directly to the person that needs to see the email.
And I think this is what Taso was referring to when he was saying traditional methods. This is the new generation. They're taking advantage of the digital age. It's organic. All your members are organic. They have been organically. They're not. You're not acquiring.
No,
we members.
We don't have not the funding. No.
They're lining up.
Yeah.
They're lining up because they're volunteering and they believe in it. And what else are you guys doing to recruit more Greek Americans so they can be more active and all of you can work?
Taso can attest to this.
Sure. I just wanted to go back to the petition that's going and the letters that are going to Secretary Kerry. It's been about 16 hours and 1,000 petitions so far since we launched. Just guesstimating and projecting at least 20,000.
So let's tell our viewers where they can log on.
And that's what I wanted to do. That's why I dragged the conversation back. So if they go to HellenicLeaders.com, it's on the front page right now. It's running. They can go to the Hellenic American Leadership Council or the Halc page on Facebook, on Twitter, or on any of the social media platforms, and it's also front and center there.
Log on and petition, all you Greek Americans, all you Hellenes around the world. We're calling your attention right here.
Yep. And as you're doing that, there's also the opportunity to sign up for Halc and kind of get into the loop regularly. And the sister site to Halc is thegreekcurrent.com, which is the news site that provides up-to-the-minute information on the issues that we're tackling down in D.C. and across the world now.
It's a news aggregator that with cherry-picked, highly selected information that you just go through the noise of what's going on out there, and we select just whatever you need to know to get a really good understanding of what's going on in Greece.
That's wonderful. Now, moving on to the cultural part of your organization. You have a wonderful cultural educational part. Tell us a little bit more about that.
So we started 3 years ago, and we have been mainly focusing on the political aspect. But when it comes to the future of our community, there are so many other elements that we need to take under account.
First and foremost, we need to keep Hellenism alive and preserve it amongst the new generations.
And this is the point. How is the future of the Greek American identity? How can we resonate? How can I've been here for 5 years. I'm a different type of I'm Greek, but when it comes to getting the Greek Americans involved who are like second, third, fourth, fifth generation, like fraction Greeks in their identity, we need to find a way that we appeal to that and would resonate. And unfortunately, the Greek American appeal so far has been sort of diminishing when it comes to how this demographic has associated itself with. And this
Why do you think that is?
This is part of a greater discussion. I think that this has to do with the fact that there's the generational gap between the first generations and how they came from Greece. Their image of Greece itself, a Greece that doesn't exist anymore, is one aspect. Assimilation is another huge social dynamic that works against us. Endogamy, Greeks marrying Greeks, has been going down. There are so many forces, like social forces, working against us. And the only way to deal with this, and this is our overarching priority, to figure out how we can not work against the forces, but use them and adapt to them. Because at the end of the day, adaptability, that's what will get us, achieve our, our survival. It has nothing to do.
This is a good time to note. Yeah. This is what happened with AHAPA, the founding of HEPA was for other reasons,
Yeah.
to adapt and assimilate so the Greeks wouldn't be, there was prejudice going on
Yeah,
and other
exactly.
reasons.
Yeah.
But now we have to adapt and change to how to keep Hellenism alive because it's being lost because of the assimilation.
Yeah, and for me, this is what I found because we work with, if you see our members in Chicago and here, it's the youngest demographic engaged that I've ever seen in an organization.
Yeah.
And the reason, and when I say, because you asked, okay, specifically, what does that mean? What it means is we listen to our members. It's not about just 1, 2, 3 people being the presidents or the faces of an organization. It's a completely different grassroots civic leadership
That is
approach.
exactly it.
And this is why people who are young started getting engaged, because now they have ownership over whatever comes out of this. It's not someone imposing something on them.
And where do you guys meet? How can someone get involved?
So the first step is go online on the webpage, HellenicLeaders.com/membership, so you can become members. There are different kinds of memberships that you can engage. And the reason why we need members is we are a professional organization that's membership based and with a big grassroots footprint, which means that we need the membership to be able to engage in order to sustain our engagement.
Membership.
And how do they engage though when you use
Right.
the word
The member-
engage?
the
So,
member will
membership
be-
starts very low. It's $25 for the intro membership. It goes all the way up to very high amounts. But once you've engaged and become a member, then you're not just left to sit there and your $25 is gone. You're invited. You're invited to events. You're invited to meet other members in your area. For example, in New York, with the New York Council, I mean, we've been doing at least 2 events a month at this point. Some of them at the EU delegation, others that are more social at dinners or different functions where members can meet each other. And then what we do there is people get to meet each other in person. They get to hear Nico's agenda and our agenda and where we're going, and then we go. And those members that are willing to or want to participate further, commit further.
So you would post on your site the event and you call everyone down.
So it's more than that. First of all, we
physically
Yeah.
are contacting people.
it's-
Nico and
You
I.
physically contact people, you better be there.
That's right. We're calling them. We're meeting them for a coffee to get to know them. Then we're inviting them to meet a portion of the larger group that they belong with, and then eventually the full group. So they're actually brought in through a channel. It's not just
Right.
you paid, okay, now come.
So what are some of the topics of the events?
We have an example, like last month in November, we had 2 events at the EU delegation to the UN. The latest one on the 23rd was with 4 ambassadors of different EU members, and we talked about migration. So, and this is a part of something that we all feel very passionate about. Our society, our community has been very introvert in some issues, and we are trying to be more extrovert. So it's not just about the Greek issue; it's about how are we part of a much more global perspective. And so the Greek migration problem is not a Greek migration problem. It's not an EU migration.
problem.
It's a world problem.
Yes.
So we are more extrovert when it comes to our engagement with the issues and our approach.
Do you support the Greek government as well? Do you have
Yeah.
relations? Are there initiatives to bring support down to Greece?
Yeah, we regardless of who's in power, we will both support and criticize at the same time everyone, because that's what we have to do. It has nothing to do with personal agendas.
What are your thoughts on what's going on with the migration issue in Greece?
It's very disturbing. Greece has been dealt with an impossible hand at this point. It's unsustainable on every level, apart from the Greek crisis now, which is just the perfect storm. But EU is complacent in this and how it has been dealing with the situation. So for me, it's an EU failure. It's an EU systemic failure, and it's just the perfect example how the EU really needs to catch up with the reality.
So you're putting pressure in Washington to put pressure in Europe.
So what we're doing is we have been exactly doing that for the past year and with exceptional results. And specifically, we had this letter signed by members of Congress to Department of Homeland Security to support Greece with capacity building and providing also more know-how with dealing this challenge on the security front. Because we have a humanitarian disaster, it's a humanitarian crisis, definitely, and there's a security component as well. We need to balance the two.
Taso, have you guys recruited any Greek politicians, Greek American politicians, or any politicians of Greek descent in the United States?
Every one of them is on board. Zach Space, who's the former congressman for Ohio, I believe, is actually a Halc council member, and he's helping write a lot of the policy that we're pushing, and is down there every time we go, kind of making the introductions for us into the chambers of all the senators and congressmen. I think he walked Nico and I into Senator Keating in Massachusetts a few months ago.
So, part of, these are wonderful things that you're doing on the political side of your, it's a political pillar, and now the cultural side of things, because I believe also, and I'm sure you all do, that in order for a Greek to feel Greek, they need to also educate themselves on our culture and who we are and where we come from. And you also have an academic component to your foundation. Would you like to tell us about that?
Yeah, so our approach again is to do what I like calling the network weaving. It's not about us, it's not about one person individually, it's about weaving a network of people. And there are organizations out there who are doing exceptional work. When it comes to the cultural aspect, we need to realize that when we had the federations and the associations of the past, because someone came from a tiny island, like village in an island, that's great, but you cannot survive like this anymore. So what we're trying to do is we try to weave this network that now it's fragmented in a way that we can survive.
It's a new generation way of networking and keeping the Greek community together.
Otherwise, if you just stick to your own really fragmented identity, this would be obsolete. It is obsolete right now.
Absolutely. Something that we've also been very committed to and that we verbalize everywhere we go is that, the traditional, let's call them the first generation organizations, Greek American organizations here, they haven't changed leadership in a long time. They've almost skipped a generation. And that's not to knock any organizations, but an organization, an entity of some sort can only survive for a definite amount of time when it depends on volunteers, especially as those volunteers age. And they have commitments like families and this and that. And one of the key factors that we have here with Halc, and it's modeled after AJC, which is the American Jewish Committee, and we also work very closely with the American Jewish Committee down in Washington. But one of the key things, and this is very important to us, is that Halc is run by paid employees and directors.
Well, it's a professional foundation.
Right, but this is their full-time job. This is what they were educated to do. This is what Nico was educated to do. This is what Andy was educated to do. They're international law people. They're international relations people. They're experts, and they don't think about anything else all day. They eat, breathe, and sleep this. And our traditional organizations will be lost if they don't have people who eat, breathe, and sleep, and their only job is to survive and grow that organization. And we see that happening, and that's a big issue for us as well. We want to save some of those.
And we would like to, here also at New Greek Television, support the Hellenic American Leadership Council, and we're doing so today. We would like to call all Greeks abroad to get involved. Nico, where can someone log on? And let's give that information one more time to our viewers.
So HellenicLeaders.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter. And you can become members through our HellenicLeaders.com page /membership. You won't be more specific, but everything is there. We have frequent briefing calls with people to educate them. Education is a key aspect. We need to mobilize people, but we need to mobilize educated people.
Well, gentlemen, you're doing a wonderful job. I'm very proud to know you and have you here on our channel. Thank you for joining us here on In the Spotlight.
Thank you, Yanna.
And they are educated, they are powerful, they are united, and they are the future of the Greeks abroad. So get involved.